Deer overpopulation is a major nationwide environmental concern in rural and suburban areas. Due to a lack of natural predators, in this picture we have a family of wolf pups eating a fresh deer kill, lower hunting rates, deforestation, urban sprawl, and successful past conservation efforts, deer populations have exploded. This map shows deer densities throughout the United States. The darker areas have more than 30 deer per square mile, and they are areas such as the Midwest, East Coast, and Southern states. White-tailed deer are mostly found east of the Rocky Mountains, and they can survive a variety of habitats, from Florida swamplands to Texan deserts to Maine forests. Male deer are bucks, female deer are does, and young baby deers are fawns. Deer feed on grasses, flowers, leaves, and twigs, and in general consume about 3% of their body weight each day. This means that a 200-pound buck will eat 6 to 10 pounds of food every day. At one point in the early 1900s, there were 500,000 white-tailed deer in the United States due to unregulated hunting, putting them at risk for extinction. This number has grown to over 30 million. How does deer overpopulation affect us? The most easily seen way is when you drive down the interstate and you see roadkill on the side of the road. Usually remains from a deer that hit a car or truck the night before. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, on average, 1.4 million Americans every year get into vehicle collisions with deer, with up to $1.5 billion in property damage occurring from deer vehicle collisions. Of these accidents, some even injure or kill the person behind the wheel. It is not uncommon to have your car end up totaled out from hitting a 200-pound buck at 60 miles per hour that seemingly came out of nowhere. Even aircraft aren't safe. The FAA reports from 1990 to 2012, 1,037 deer were struck by civil aircraft during landing or takeoff. Deer are carriers for ticks which can carry Lyme disease. In this picture, this doe has a heavy tick infestation, especially around her ears and neck. One deer can carry 600 ticks on their body. This gives ticks the ability to spread throughout a forest very effectively. Pictured as a black-legged deer, which is one of the most common vectors of Lyme disease. Lyme disease is transmitted through tick bites. There is evidence that reducing deer populations can reduce tick populations in turn, which can reduce the incidence of Lyme disease. Contrary to popular belief, however, deer do not infect ticks with the bacterium that causes Lyme disease. Small rodents carry the Borrelia bacterium that ticks can spread, and then ticks latch onto the deer to feed off their blood. Overgrazing is the biggest environmental problem. Just like livestock can overgraze a prairie and leave it a barren wasteland, deer can overbrowse a forest and reduce its undergrowth. As you can see, this forest only has weeds and grasses. The only plants that can grow fast enough despite deer overbrowsing. The following picture shows a healthy forest with plenty of seedlings and undergrowth to fertilize the forest. Some tree species are so impacted by deer that they would have to be planted to restore their previous amounts. Current deer populations in eastern North America will lead to the extinction of ginseng, shown in this picture, a popular medicinal herb, within the next century. Overgrazing by deer can reduce wildlife diversity. They will eat faster than plants can grow. Without new saplings, we lose habitats for songbirds and other small animals to shelter and nest. This reduces native species by removing habitats that can be out of reach of natural predators. Deer can also show a preference towards eating native plants over invasive plants, which will further place pressure on a native plant. The worst part is that this damage is slow and cumulative, meaning that it's often overlooked or chalked up as being natural. Deer overpopulation can be managed through reintroducing natural predators such as wolves and coyotes, along with encouraging hunting. 2 healthy deer can produce as much as 30 fawns in a 7-year period. Doing nothing, as some animal rights activists will suggest, will not reduce deer populations fast enough and can lead to disease or starvation in local deer populations. Encouraging hunting is cost-effective, as hunters will do the labor at no cost, along with raising funds for small businesses from hunters buying supplies and taxes through hunting licenses. This is a product of harvesting deer. It is venison steak, also known as deer steak. It's very delicious. Extending hunting season, or only allowing for the hunting of antlerless white-tailed deer, meaning does and fawns, are two ways of further controlling deer population. This is a map of deer hunting seasons in the state of New York by the State Department of Environmental Conservation. As you can see, it is not permitted to hunt deer within the 5 boroughs of New York, along with Westchester. However, once you go past Rockland and Orange counties, the deer hunting season for the southern zone, which is colored in blue, goes from October 1st all the way to December 18th. If the state of New York wants to further control deer populace, they would extend out the hunting season, or they would permit the hunting, or they would encourage the hunting of antlerless deer. The city of New York manages their deer population through sterilizing the populace. We have a local deer population in Staten Island. However, this is very expensive and difficult to do so in larger rural areas, and it's more meant for areas that have too many people around to have hunting safely. Deer populations must be managed in North America to further prevent the loss of biodiversity in forests, economic losses, and control the spread of Lyme disease.